Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hi, this is Craig. Just want to let you know you can now advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. For more information, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I got a great guitar player, really experienced in a lot of aspects of music and guitar. And I want to first give a shout out to Steve Mazer from Our Lady Peace, who turned me on to today's guest, which is Michael Eisenstein. Michael is a guitarist, songwriter, and producer, born and raised in New Jersey. He started playing guitar at 14, then moved to Boston to attend Berklee, and then he joined Grammy-winning R&B singer Lalah Hathaway to support her debut album. You're the only non-snarky puppy North Texas guitar player I've spoken to that's played with Lalah. She does like everything with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just assumed she went to school with them or something.
No, she was at Berklee with me.
That's wild. That's amazing, man. I'm really,
she was my college girlfriend.
Really? Oh yeah. My God. That is so wild. That is very cool. In 1991, he joined Boston-based alternative rock band Letters to Cleo. He released three albums with them on Giant Records. They had a hit with Here and Now, toured throughout the U.S. and Europe extensively through 1998, which is a hell of a run. And they appeared in the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, and they were also featured on the soundtrack album, which was certified gold. An album is those things, by the way, if you're under like 35, that big plate things that are vinyl. In 1998, he began playing with Nina Gordon, who is ex-Veruca Salt. He played on her Bob Rock-produced solo album and served as her music director through 2001. In 2000, he played guitar and bass on the Babyface Adam Schlesinger-produced soundtrack album to the film Josie and the Pussycats. 2000 to 2001, he was songwriter and guitarist for the Warner Brothers animated series Generation O with Letters to Cleo, which featured an original song in every episode. It's a lot of work. 2002 to 2003, toured back again with Our Lady Peace as guitarist, keyboardist, and support of the LP Gravity, and played on the Our Lady Peace live LP and DVD. Moved to LA in 2003, began producing and pursuing session work in LA, and we're going to talk about all this, including playing on Hilary Duff's platinum-certified self-titled album. He toured periodically with Lisa Loeb from 2005 to 2007, and he co-wrote and produced songs for the Care Bears TV episodes and movies 2006 to 2008. Were you like a hero for your kids growing up, working on all these like cool kids things?
You know, like it just never, the timing, they were never into the stuff that we were working on.
Because this is really like,
still aren't.
This is like big stuff in that, world. You weren't working on something, minuscule. He formed a retro instrumental band called the Reigning Monarchs with comedian Greg Behrendt and drummer Blair Cinta in 2008. Their debut self-titled album was released in 2009, followed by a 7-inch single in 2010 and a 3-song EP called All Summer Single in 2011 and a full-length album, Black Sweater Massacre, great title, in 2013. They also have another album coming out. Excuse me. Sorry about that. They also have another album coming out really soon, which we'll talk about later in the interview. The band combines surf guitar with ska, rockabilly, 60s movie scores, and a little punk rock. Sounds like great. I'm going to definitely check you guys out. That sounds fantastic. Like right up my alley, man. All really cool guitar stuff. He also toured with ex-Catherine Wheels singer Rob Dickinson in 2008 in support of his solo debut album. Between 2008 and 2013, he focused on producing and mixing indie artists, including Lane, Seth Freeman, Elliot Carroll, Evolove, Field Mouse, Natalie and Julie, The Bruises, and others. This is cool. He toured with Melissa Etheridge between 2013 and 14. 2015, Letters to Cleo reunited. They produced a return EP called Back to Nebraska, and they began their yearly tradition of November tours, culminating in homecoming concerts in Boston. 2016 to 17. Now, see, this is something I don't want to skim over lightly because I know exactly how difficult this is. He posted over 100 Instagram videos hashtagged standard of the day. They were 1-minute solo guitar arrangements of songs from the Great American Songbook. People think it's like easy posting shit. It's not. This is a lot of work. And then you got edits sometimes in there. I know how this is. Man, of all the things you've done, congratulations. This is really difficult. It really is. And just so you should, I'll talk about this later, but Michael's Instagram is the Eisenstein, EISENSTEIN, and you can check all these out. Again, they're called Standard of the Day. In 2017, he had a new Instagram series called Get Back, like guitar back, GUIT, featuring solo guitar arrangements of over 60 Beatles songs. And in 2018, he played on the Christmas Party, Adam Schlesinger produced Christmas album by the Monkees. Dude, you have like literally been there and seen it and done it all.
It's a little bit of everything, kind of.
Yeah, that's really, really awesome. It's funny. My first question was, how'd you get hooked up with Lalah Hathaway? But I guess you already said that one. Did you ruin her? And that's why she never worked with anybody from Berkeley again, and she just went to the guys on North Texas State.
My understanding is that they approached her to do that original single, which was an arrangement they had done of a song from her debut album, that one that I was touring with her on. And that was kind of like the way I see it is like a real critical. She won a Grammy for that song. And that really like just positioned her in a different light kind of in that world. So it was a great collaboration for both of them, really.
Yeah. Very cool, man. All right. You know what? I talked to, do you know?
She's won a Grammy every year since then.
Has she?
Yeah. She's won like 3 in a row.
Wow. You could have been like, what do you call it? She could have been your sugar mama.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Another one bites the dust. Man, you were with Letters to Cleo for 7 years, and you had great success with them.
10, because we, that heavy touring period was probably 7 years, but it wasn't until about 2000 or 2001 that we broke up, somewhere around there.
So it was 10 years.
Yeah.
So during that time, you just mentioned the heavy touring period, you had tons of great success, and like everything else in life, I'd assume you had some lows. I was curious, what were the highs like and what were the lows like, and what did you learn personally from the entire experience?
Well, the highs were it was gradual, like everyone always thinks you're an overnight success, but it was, years of just playing little clubs and doing little regional tours in a shitty van. And then, just kind of getting better, improving our personnel, writing. And, kind of when it all started to happen, we were prepared for it pretty well. But it was a great experience, like hearing that song on the radio for the first time, like in a random market, driving from Kansas City to St. Louis, just like on a college radio station here in ourselves in Columbia, Missouri, like.
What was that like? Yeah, that's really cool.
It was super exciting. So we had known about this station out of the university there, and we're like, well, let's try and get that station in. And we got it. We've got it. And we must have been in range of the station for maybe like 45 minutes of the drive. And to catch our own song, was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's like serendipity for sure, man.
Yeah. And that was before we were getting any kind of airplay commercially. It was just like a real chance, And then I can remember when we were kind of making our second record, when the first single from the first record started to kind of catch on. So there's kind of like a rush to get that record done. But I remember we were going to Cleveland and we knew we had some airplay going on there. And we're kind of pulling into town and we catch ourselves on the radio. And we're like, oh, wow, it's really true. It's happening. And then we get to the club and there's just like a line down the block to get in. And we're like, whoa,
wow,
this is insane. Like it was our first time playing somewhere outside of New England where we had people coming to see us, and it was like, wow, the radio really works. Like,
dude, I just got goosebumps when you said that. Is really awesome, man.
Yeah.
Did you feel like did that sort of validate all the hard work in a way, maybe?
I mean, in retrospect, yes, but at the time it was just like, you're doing this, you're hoping to get heard, you're hoping to, like at that time, like the alternative radio thing was really going strong, and it was like it's possible, that could happen, that you could get a hit song, but you don't know that, you've taken all the steps, you've played all the shows, you've got the record deal, the record's in the stores, but when it starts to happen on that level, and like you're in somewhere in the middle of the country and there's a line down the block, it's like, wow, it's happening.
Was it a little bit like, holy shit, this is actually, people are actually listening to it?
Yeah. And then you go to the next city the next night and it's like same deal. And you're like, whoa. And just like the whole kind of experience of your road life has changed. It's like,
that's so cool. Yeah. But it wasn't, it was I talked to my buddy's wife one time. I was a nail biter for my entire life since I was probably 5 till maybe 5 years ago. And I was mentioning it to her. She goes, well, it takes a lifetime to do something, and a moment, something about like what you're saying, it was a lifetime, then a moment it happens, it just, like it was a lifetime of, you paid your dues, man, is what I'm saying, and it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it was just, that's what I remember as like the highs of that thing of like, wow, people are coming to see us now.
Yeah, that's real nice. Which is, hey, that's what you live for as a musician, to play live and people enjoying what you're putting out there, man.
Yeah.
What were some of the lows like, and what did you get out of this whole experience?
One low was after our second record, we kind of came back and had a little bit of, because we had kind of mashed those first two albums, touring cycles and recording, like all back to back. We kind of got done with that double record cycle that just all went right through. It was, all told, probably like 3 years of, work, pretty nonstop. We had a bit of like a exhale period, and then that kind of like led to a little bit of like writer's block and just a little trouble getting the ship rolling again for a third record. And in that time, our drummer left, who was, a core member of the band. And that was a back-breaking blow. And we didn't know, that was like a low point. Like, what's the future of the band? Like now, and the upside of it was eventually getting some songs going that weren't the best. And then the label didn't like the first round of demos we gave them as well in that same period, which we had done with a friend of ours, a session drummer. We still didn't have a permanent drummer. And, it took us months of perseverance, finding a drummer and writing some better material and to make our third album. And like, I guess the upside of it was the perseverance of like, okay, yes, we do have the skills, and a lot of people think that third record's our best one, but it was a hard battle and like a little bit of like, it almost didn't happen. There was turnover at the label at the same time too. It was a dicey little period.
Do you think you guys are just like completely burnt, and that's what the low is from? Because I mean, that's really tough to tour 2 cycles back to back like that, man.
Yeah, we were burnt. And when you also get into that like road life of like drinking too much and kind of like getting home again, and then just not being sure, like, wait, was that was that a long party or was that work?
Is it weird when something like that, when you come home again, like, I would imagine it's almost like, well, how do I behave when I'm home? Like you kind of forget, like like there's no routine. So now you got to figure out a routine.
Yeah. And the routine wasn't good. It wasn't, it wasn't a productive routine. Like trying to adapt to home life. And there's actually like, I read an article about this, like that sort of how musicians, I don't know if it was the New York Times, but it was somewhere like a major publication about like how difficult it is for musicians to return to home life after touring, adapting life when the expectations are so different and the management of your time is so different.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I can imagine. I mean, as an outsider just looking in, I could see how difficult it is. It's funny. I was talking to somebody recently and, they were having like, I guess, sort of relationship problems, but they were saying that, if I can go back on tour, everything would be fine. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't be there. And they, yeah. It's like, with no problems, I'm not here.
Yeah, some people really struggle with tour life, like that kind of routine, but like not being in the same place every day and like having to perform all day and then having these weird stretches of idle time. And like, it's a bad combination for some people. Like I'm great on the road.
Yeah.
I can settle into that routine really well and find things to do with myself. And, I don't struggle with like moving around. But for some people it's hard to be on the road. For some people it's hard to be back.
Yeah.
You know what's expected of you, at least on the road. It's like every day, wake up, you have an itinerary. You're going to do a radio appearance. You're going to come back and have sound check. You'll have some time to chill out. You'll have dinner, and then you've got a show. It's like you have a routine, except for days
structured for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could understand that. And then you come home and you're like, well, I don't have any structure. I got to figure out, I got to make the structure and I don't even know what the hell to do because I haven't been here in a year and a half or 6 months.
And I'm keeping weird hours and like, it's, it can be tough.
Yeah.
Especially when you're younger. Like when I go on the road now, if I come back, it's like, I have my kids, they're very grounding, it's like, it's there's different things expected of me. But when you're just like a 25-year-old with very loose,
with no responsibilities.
Yeah. It's like, it's easy to get into trouble when you get back.
Yeah.
So that was a tough time that I remember. Like, I didn't know where it was going personally or with the band, it was like all just up in the air. Well, I wasn't practicing, it was like,
oh, wow.
I was trying to write songs, but it was frustrating time.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Michael. It sounded like in the late 90s and early 2000s, you started getting into music licensing for movies, which I think as a business guy looking in from the outside is absolutely brilliant. I think everybody that can do it should do it.
Yeah.
I was curious how that came about, and did you like doing it, and are you doing any of this today?
It came about by one guy.
Really?
A guy named Ralph Saul, who was a music supervisor, and he was a music producer, and he had been in the movie business prior. He kind of combined those two things to become a music supervisor. And he had this like angle. He did a bunch of movies where he would go and temp the movie. For listeners know what temp means. It's like the music supervisors and the composers, they put music in as like placeholders to kind of mark how the editing is going to work and how the story is going to be told. And then later on, they'll compose a score in those spots and put in licensed songs in those spots where everything's supposed to happen. So he would temp the movie with like classic songs, but then get emerging acts to do cover versions of those songs, which is A, more affordable.
Oh, a lot.
Right. And B, makes for a kind of compelling soundtrack album concept. Yeah. And he did a bunch of movies with that. And like one of the movies he did, like right at that time when we were kind of like having our moment on the radio and stuff was this movie called The Craft with it was a teenage witch movie, you know, just largely forgettable movie, but he did a great soundtrack album. Our Lady Peace was on it, and we were on it, and Love Spit Love, which was Richard Butler from Psychedelic Furs.
Yeah.
Stripping Daisy were on it.
Richard Butler and Richard Fortas, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a good soundtrack album, and anyway, we covered this Cars song, and we were a little dubious about it. He was like, "Yeah, you'll just come out to LA and I'll produce it," and we didn't know him from Adam, but it was like, oh, okay, it seems like a cool opportunity, and we'll go to LA. And the budgets were big back then, so like they flew us out to LA, and we had this idea of like, oh, we're going to cover. He had the song picked, like you're doing this Cars song, or maybe he even gave us a choice of a couple songs. And we're like, we'd like to do that.
What'd you do?
Song.
Which Cars song?
We did Dangerous Type from the Candy Up.
She's a lot like you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, great song.
We had this idea of like, hey, maybe can we get Greg Hawkes from the Cars to play keys on it? And they were like, yeah, we'll reach out. And we met him at the airport, and he flew out, and we did the session with him, and the track came out great, and it ended up being the single from the album, and we made a video for it, and it was super fun. So then, like a couple years later, he was doing another film, which was 10 Things I Hate About You, and he was like, and this is when we had just gotten dropped from our label, like the future was very uncertain, we didn't know what was going on. It was like, do you want to come out and do this other soundtrack album? And we're like, yes. Desperately.
Did you almost want to tell him, we just got dropped, but like he's probably thinking about it, but like, we can't tell him that.
I mean, it probably was better for them because they don't have to cut a deal with our record label, you know?
Oh, right. Yes.
For all the other ones, you have to cut the label in. It's like a whole extra set of contracts that have to go out. So it's probably better for them that we were recently dropped.
Gotcha.
And we flew out, and it was like, well, we want to maybe do this song or this song. And we're like, let's just do both. And it was I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick and Cruel to Be Kind by Nick Lowe. Oh,
good songs, man.
Yeah, the guy, I mean, Ralph had great taste, and that's why he was successful at what he did, and his model worked, we cut both of those, and like they delivered them to the director, and the director's like, we want to have a band in the movie in like this scene, like, and we just happened to be in the studio in LA at the time, and he's like, check these guys out. And the story goes, I've heard that like one of the actors in the movie was a fan and had like suggested us to the director. I never got that confirmed.
Hey, whatever. It's great.
And so we ended up flying up to Seattle to be in the movie.
Awesome.
And then they're like, oh, record a couple more songs, to use in those movie scenes, because the other songs were already placed in certain parts of the movie. And we ended up recording like 4 songs, and they're like, oh, we want to put you in another scene in the movie too. Fly back up to Seattle, shoot another scene from it. And it ended up being like 2 weeks of like either being in the recording studio in LA or on set up in the Seattle, Tacoma area.
That's great.
Yeah. So it was a fun little experience. It was like, kind of our summer of, I think it was 1998. Like,
that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Let me just say to the listeners why this guy Ralph saw this was such a good idea, and back me up or correct me or fix this if I'm wrong. I asked Lyle Workman about this when I interviewed him. The reason why this is such a good idea is because if you're going to use the original songs by the original artists in a movie, they will charge you sometimes literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to use one song. Like I was asking him, how does Martin Scorsese, how does he he's got like Layla, Gimme Shelter, he's like the classic because he's paying literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for that, right? So by per song, yeah. So by getting an indie band in to do remakes, it's like massive savings.
Yeah. So like when you license a song to put in a movie or a television show, there's like a license you pay for the kind of the intellectual property, they call it the mechanical license, like to use the song itself. Then you pay an additional, usually equal license for the master recording itself. So if you So like, let's say you want to put Strawberry Fields Forever in a movie, you got to pay the estate of John Lennon, you know, $100,000 or whatever.
Right.
And then you got to pay the Beatles maybe $500,000. So you can just pay for the, you know, for the recording. So you can just pay the mechanical license for the song, and then get somebody else to record it for and pay them $10,000.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing, man. Thank you for explaining that, because I always find that really this. It's so funny, all the money, the revenue models that nobody knows anything about. This is all like under the radar stuff. It's just interesting how this all works.
Well, I mean, I had already signed a publishing deal at that point, and I still didn't know how it worked. And it wasn't until we started getting these movie jobs that I started to see it in contracts, and then have a lawyer explain, this is what this contract means. And like you said, okay, now I get it. There's a license you pay for the actual sound recording, and there's a license you pay for the composition. They're two separate equal things.
Very cool.
Usually equal.
And then now I've spoken to guys in the UK, and they're doing these movies. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you doing all these American movie soundtracks? He goes, for the same reason that they always make decisions. It's the scale to pay us in England is a lot cheaper than the scale to pay musicians so they have all, like, he's worked on like major movies, and like he's in London, great player, but I was just confused, like, why are you doing this? But it's the scale is a lot cheaper. Crazy, man.
I assisted a composer who's a guitarist as well, Jeff Russo from Tonic.
Yes, I know the name.
And he's now like a major TV and film composer, but he does, his last couple of projects have been orchestral scores, and they record them all over in Prague and you know, these European cities where they have these orchestras that will play for a fraction of what an orchestra would play for here.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, isn't it? So how did that lead on to you getting more work? Yeah.
Like Letters to Cleo kind of like got a little reputation through Ralph and the success of those projects of being like a kind of movie band, TV band. And then Generation O, which was that Warner Brothers TV show, like they just put out there for demos of a theme song. And I think they had a title. Either had the full lyrics or just the title. I can't remember. But like, and they just put out they wanted to be it was a little girl rock star was the show was about. So they wanted to have a female voice. And in those days we recorded to tape, and we would just run the tape a little fast to get the vocal sounding like a little kid.
Yeah, the pitch higher.
Yeah. And so they just went out to a bunch of like bands that they thought would be kind of a good fit to kind of sound like that, what they envisioned. And they were all these, kind of like female fronted rock bands. And we wrote a theme song, and they liked it the best. And so that led to an entire season of television recording, which again, it was before anybody had any kind of sophisticated home recording rigs. So we were just in a recording studio for 6 months, we probably did 20 episodes, and it was an original song. We do them in batches of 2. We would get scripts and write songs about what was going on in her life. Sometimes the writer of the episode gave us lyrics. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just said, insert song here, here's the title. And we just wrote songs about what was going on in this little girl's life for 6 months. It was super fun.
That's a really cool project, and challenging, and probably kept you guys going for a while. Just the right time. That's great, man. Yeah,
it really did. It kept the lights on, as I say.
Yeah, which shit, you need that sometimes. Everybody does in every business. That's fantastic.
And that kind of came right after 10 Things I Hate About You, which the soundtrack album was successful. That kept the lights on for a while, because we had a bunch of songs on there. And like one thing, our the band's manager was very good at, like, he's still our manager now, Michael Kramer in Boston. He works at Berkeley, and he always kept the lights on. Like, he always found gigs for us, whatever it was, whether it was like, you're going to go play this barbecue fest in Pittsburgh, like, but they're giving you $25,000 or whatever. Like,
yeah,
whatever. He always found something for us from the early days on that we never, in the early days, it was, we never had to put our own money into the band.
Yeah.
And then later we were able to keep the
lights on
going and not have to take other jobs. You know, just like,
that's great, man.
And, you know, that enough of these things happen in a row, and that's kind of like prompted the move to LA to kind of like, maybe we should be pursuing this more seriously, not just letting it come to us, but actually like kind of be in the middle of it.
So that's what made you move out. Did the whole band move out there then?
No, the band had split up by that time. But my ex-wife was the singer of Letters to Cleo, and
okay.
And we had been, you know, doing a lot of that songwriting. And,
do you date non-musicians?
I do. I am now, and it's great. It's fantastic.
Oh man, well that's awesome. So, all right. So you guys, I'm sorry, I got lost in that silly question. You said not everybody moved out there.
Yeah. Well, our original drummer had moved out first. Yeah. He had kind of come back and started playing with us a little bit at the end when we kind of, and he had moved out first. A wave of Boston musicians moved out in like maybe about 97. And then like another wave had moved out in that like early 2000s, and we were kind of in part of that second group. So we knew a lot of people who lived out here that maybe weren't in our band, but were in our scene, you know?
Did you know Lawrence Katz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause he kind of moved out, I think around that time right.
Same time. Yeah. He lives in Philly now.
Yeah, I know. I just spoke with him like yesterday. Yeah. He just moved there.
He was at Letters to Cleo, played in Philly about 2 weeks ago. He came out to sound check.
Oh, very cool.
He's got a little new board.
Really? So. Yeah. We were talking about that. That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking of before when we were talking.
Yeah.
And also Adam Zimmern. Do you know Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. I met Adam out here.
He's got a little kid.
Adam's a sweetheart.
Real nice guy. Funny as shit. Okay. So then you moved out there, and then did you want to like how did you stay active that, or did you, like, what happened once you move out? Like, how did you start getting gigs once you're out in LA? Was it the land of?
I'll backtrack and tell. This is, I think, a relevant story to like the life of a musician. You know, at the end of my time in Boston, I had taken that gig with Our Lady Peace, and at that time, those guys were like, I don't know if it was a make or break record for them, but it was like, their biggest record had been a few records before. Yeah. And they made this record with Bob Rock. It was very commercial, and it was, you know, the pressure was on to do it. And they hit the road really hard. And it was like, for a year solid, pretty much, it was like 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 5 weeks on, 1 week off, 8 weeks on, week and a half off, you know, like. And I was living in Boston. I always had to fly to Toronto usually to get with the band. Once we were really well rehearsed, I could meet them in the first city of a tour. But like for the first bunch of it, we would go to Toronto and rehearse. And it was just grueling. In the middle of that whole stretch, my son was born. I had a toddler daughter at the time, and my son was born, and he got very sick when he was a month old. Oh, wow. Like life and death intensive care for 2 weeks, you know.
Holy shit, that's scary enough.
Yeah, and wow, I had to kind of leave him. I got a sub to cover the first couple dates, who was a guy that had played with them before. But like once he was out of the intensive care, I had to just basically fly out to Calgary or whatever and start a tour. And that was the point of like, maybe I should try and get off the road for a little bit and be around with my family. You know,
that's tough. That's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. You know, and then he was fine, but it's like he was a newborn, and that coincided and then 2 months later we're over in Europe, and this is like during the run up to the Iraq War, and there's it's a month-long tour of Europe, and there's anti-American protests in every city. As there's a deadline of March 21st is the day that if Iraq doesn't do this, we're going to war. And it was a hostile time over there. And, especially when we got to UK, they were worried about terrorist attacks and stuff. And it was just a kind of a crazy time to be on the road and be away from a young family.
Yeah. And I'm sure at that point you're walking around or driving in a bus and seeing all these protesting. And you're like, I've got to get the fuck out. And you're thinking of your kid at home and your family. That had to be really weighing heavy. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. So that was a tense time.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad. Thank you for explaining that, because that is tough. And I think people don't realize all the stuff that you guys go through. For some reason, I think everybody thinks it's, oh man, you're just a rock star. And I was talking to a buddy of mine in Nashville today about that. He was a successful player in Nashville, and now he's on a national gig, and he's like, just the nature of the gig. He's like, he said, it's really weird. I get naked pictures on Instagram now. He goes, it's completely bizarro world now. And he's the same dude, and I think people think it's so glamorous, you don't have to drive through, a protest and get this shit scared out of you with your kid in a hospital. It's only wine and roses for you. And
I mean, the fact of the matter is about 90 minutes of the day that are glamorous.
Yeah. Right.
When you're on stage and if you're having a great show, which, hopefully you're having great shows most of the time. That's the awesome part of the day. And the rest of the day is, it's what you make of it, but you're not home. You're not with your family. You're with the other people you're working with, and hopefully they're cool and you have a good camaraderie, but it's you're at work.
And you still got to do the same bullshit in life everybody else has to deal with, sick family members, relationships, and all that same pressure, Yeah. And you're not home on top of that. So it's tough, man. It really is. I give everybody I speak to so much credit for doing what they do. It's just, it's not an easy life. And even if you're making tons of money, that makes it nicer, but it's a difficult life, man.
Yeah. If you're in a relationship or have kids or anything, I can not count the number of days I've spent on the phone with a crying significant other, not being able to really do anything to help.
Right.
Just to talk them through whatever they're going through over the phone. And this goes back to before we all had cell phones.
Yeah.
A pay phone with an international calling number.
I was going to say, it's costing you $200 for 10 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure, man. Wow. Once you got out to LA, did everything work out?
I mean, it was in the end, yeah, everything worked out. But yeah, it's fine. I'm here.
Yeah. And by the way, congratulations! You are literally the first person in LA that's done an 8 a.m. your time interview, man. I actually have someone else booked, I think for January, but yeah, you're the first person. So kudos to you. You're on top of this, man.
Well, I mean, kids off to school. I got my little office back here. I can just close the door and just go, and then I still have my whole day. Yeah,
no, I get it. But most people I wake up around 10, so I guess 11 will be good.
No, I'm up early, and then I've got one student who's a college age kid that I do morning lessons with. And then I have a studio that I go to, and mix I prefer I like the morning shift. My ears are fresh.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
I'm a morning guy too. I like getting up and it's so much more productive and like fresh. I'm the same, man. Yeah. How'd you get the gig with Melissa Etheridge? And can you share maybe an interesting story from your experience with her? What a talent.
Yeah. That came about my buddy Blair Cinta, who's a drummer, session drummer, and played with everybody. He had been playing with her for probably like 5 years at this time. This is going back about 5 years now. And he just rang me up one day, and do you know, have you ever had Pete Thorne on the show?
No, but I've spoken to Pete several times. Yeah.
He was doing the gig at that time with Blair. And I guess they just had a tour that they had booked out, and then at the last minute, they kind of extended it by a month. And Pete had already booked something else for after that.
Yeah, he's literally, I think, booked nonstop.
Yeah. And I mean, this is before he had started his YouTube channel at that point. Like, I remember, like, he had his famous, like, I'll teach you how to play Eruption video.
That's kind of funny just hearing that. I'll teach you how to play Eruption. Doesn't mean you're going to play it, but I'll teach you how to play it.
Well, my buddy Jason Sutter is another drummer who played with Pete in Chris Cornell's band. Uh-huh. He told me, like, they'd be on tour somewhere, and, like, the kids would come up to Pete and be like, thanks to you, I can play Eruption. Like, that's the only thing they learned to say in English.
Tomo arigato, Pete.
Anyway, back to Melissa. Pete had booked another thing after the tour, and they extended the tour, and they needed somebody to come in and play guitar. So, you know, she had asked Blair, do you know anybody? And he recommended me. There was another guy in the running, I guess, and, you know, send a bio, send a couple of YouTube links, and I ended up getting the gig. And then she kept me on for probably like about close to a year and a half after that, a little over a year.
You said something really important there. Send a bio and a couple of YouTube links. I talk to people often, and they'll say to me, "Hey, do you think I've run a marketing company for 20 years, so people tend to ask me, like, do you think I have, like, guys will say, do you think I need a website?" I'm like, that's your business card today, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's your business card. Yeah. And they're like, well, what do I do? I said, put some shit up on YouTube. Why? Well, this is a perfect example.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example. No, not because you're going to make $1 million on AdSense, because you have to be relevant, and someone's going to say, hey, can you show me some of, send me, here's my YouTube clips.
I mean, nowadays, no matter what business you're in, like, your Instagram is kind of like your personal imaging presentation. Yeah, your branding, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's a represent Instagram, not really Facebook, but yeah, Instagram and your website, and definitely if you've as a musician, your YouTube channel for sure, man. Yeah, you know. So you sent all that over at work, and you were with her for 6 months longer than, or after the. It was supposed to be 1 month, and it ended up being like 15 months. That's great. That's great. So everything, yeah. But see, like, if you didn't have a YouTube channel, you probably wouldn't even have got that gig. And now, not only did you get it, but to sub for a month, but you got an extra year and a half out of working with a major artist. Yeah, and it was, and this is, I also got like really lucky in terms of so that original 1 month, the last gig of that was this festival in Telluride, Colorado, mm-hmm. which is beautiful mountain ski town, and we did this great festival with like John Hyatt played right before us, and Preservation Hall Jazz Band was on that bill. It was like an all day, like all weekend thing. But anyway, the last show was that festival, and it had been pouring rain the whole weekend. And like right when we got on stage, the rain stopped. This beautiful rainbow came down over the mountain in front of us, and they were filming the whole thing. We had this great gig, and we played for 2.5 hours. Wow. And it just happened to be a killer show. and they sent her the film of it, and she was like, "Wow, my band sounds great. Like, I want to keep this guy around." Like, it was just, like, I think the fact that was such a great gig, and that was the one that was filmed, and it was the very last one of that little stretch, was just lucky for me, you know. And she played great and sang great, and it all looked amazing. Like, it was just a lucky break.
Plus, nowadays there's a good section of like people with money, and believe me, no broke people go to the festival at Telluride, you know. Right. And she might get house concerts out of that, or private corporate things, you know. And none of that, and you'd be involved in that. None of that would ever happen if you didn't have your YouTube channel, man. So, you know, anybody listening to this, if you're a guitar player and you haven't done that yet, get on it now, because, you know, something's going to happen. It may not be a gig with Melissa Etheridge, but it'll be a gig with somebody else, you know.
And at very least, even if it's not your own channel, make sure there's videos of you up there and that you have links to them all.
Yeah.
Organized somewhere, you know? Like, 'cause I sent her a thing, like, it was like playing on the Tonight Show with Lisa Loeb, and I sent her a thing that was like, I don't remember what the other clip was, who I was playing with on the other thing, but it was like, you know, just a couple of like high profile seeming things.
Yeah.
Where I played well and looked relatively cool.
Yeah. No, and plus it's a great, the person who's looking at it gets to see, how do you look physically? Because, you know, look, let's face it, in the music business, people hear with their eyes very often. So they get to see, how does this guy look on stage? How does he perform? How does he interact with everybody else? Does he look happy? Which is real important, because they want to see somebody who's happy up there. They don't want to see some, you know, angry Bob on stage for them. So there's a million things going on there, man. Good for you. Good move, man. Michael, what are you working on now that you're excited about?
Well, I'm mixing an album that I just produced for an artist who goes by Juliet Airport. That like, I didn't when we first started, I didn't kind of get the direction he was going in, and this guy knew exactly what he wanted to do, and it was kind of like, it was one of those like records we worked on like one night a week for like months. We didn't like set aside 3 weeks to make a record. We were like, just did it real slow, and it's finally almost done. And then we just got done with our annual, like, November is like Letters to Cleo time in my world, where we all shut down and go play these shows. And we're planning to do a new record in the new year. And I'm really excited to write that stuff. Like, the reforming of that band has been a really awesome little change in life, and like, the shows have been great. People are totally into it. So like, the prospect of doing a new record is one of the things I'm super excited about.
Is your ex still singing?
Yeah.
Is that weird? And you don't have to answer that. And I could even edit it out if you want me to.
It's not now. We definitely had to take a few, you know, years of not doing anything professionally together.
Yeah, because that would be weird as fuck for me.
Yeah. It took a few years, but, you know, like, when you have kids and you got to figure that part out, you learn how to work together, kind of.
Sure.
At least on that level. Yeah. Like, making plans and dropping off and picking up and discussing finances and stuff like that. You learn some people have real acrimonious times, but like, you figure out how to do it. And we kind of figured that aspect out. And I remember there's just some gig where she was like, "Hey, I got this thing in Chicago. Do you want to play guitar on it?" And I was like, "Sure." And that went okay.
Oh, so that was a nice olive branch there.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And, and it was, then same thing, a couple years later, like, "Hey, I got this, I need to demo a song for an animated show on Netflix. You want to co-write it and produce it?" "Yeah, sure." And like, little projects that took a day or whatever, like,
that's cool.
That's successful. And then like, our drummer, had been Miley Cyrus's MD for, I think he still is, for a long time. But there's a lot of touring involved with that. And then he did like, right after that, he did like a year or whatever with Matchbox 20. And he was just touring nonstop. And he got back. He's like, "Hey, you know, I'm going to focus on writing this next year. Like, do you want to do some Cleo stuff?" And I was like, yeah, maybe if it's okay, you know, if Kay's into it, and then she was into it, and Greg, our guitar player back in Boston, was into it. We kind of got together and just wrote like a song, like, and then didn't think about it for a couple weeks, and got together again and wrote and listened back. Like, that song wasn't bad. Wrote another one, like, or two, and it was like, these are pretty good. And we just went right to the studio and just recorded them and kind of got the band back together like that. Good,
man. It's always good. It's always better for karma for everybody when there's a smile in your brain associated with something than like, you know, anything less than that, you know? So that's good that you guys were able to do that.
Yeah. And we kind of went into just like, we'll do this little EP and book a couple shows in the fall. Like, this was like in the beginning of the year we started writing, and like, we'll get the record done in a month or two, and we booked a couple shows, and the response was great.
That's good, man.
We just did kind of like 3 weekends. We did like a weekend. We did San Francisco and LA. Then we did a weekend. A couple weeks later, we did 2 shows in Chicago, and then we did a third weekend. We did New York and Boston. And like, all the shows were well attended. Fans came out, and like, and then we just kind of made that a yearly tradition. Like, we got off stage that last night, and our manager was like, "Same weekend next year." We're like, "Sure."
Yeah, very cool, man. I'm glad. And will there be a tour to support this new record, you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, at the very least, we'll do our usual, you know, rehearse in LA and play an LA show, do New York and Boston, and then maybe 2 other cities. At the very least, we'll do that, which we're just kind of doing every November now. What we book beyond that depends on a lot of things, you know, because everyone's got other things. Letters to Cleo isn't anybody's main thing, you know. So we set aside this time in November to get together and do it, but who knows what gigs people will be doing or what'll be going on then. So it's hard to commit now to like, oh yeah, we're going to do a 6-week tour. We play all the major markets, but we'll do something. We know that we can't like play the same show anymore. Like, we got to get some new material or a new angle or whatever.
No, but that's great that you're doing that. I'm really happy for you guys. I wish you a lot of luck with that project, man. And I hope it goes great. Where in New Jersey did you grow up?
Wayne, New Jersey, which is, I always say as in Fountains of, because
is that where they're from? Fountains of Wayne?
They're not from there, but it's like, it was a really cheesy, high profile like store on Route 46 in Wayne, and they sold like, you know, you see like The Sopranos, like they have like these fountains and shit.
Oh yeah, so that's a real store, Fountains of Wayne.
Yeah. It's gone now, but I drove past it every day on my way to high school.
That is so funny.
And so they were from, you know, somebody in the band was from North Jersey and knew about that place.
That is so funny. I never knew
Chris
that.
Singer, I think, was from like Montclair or something like that, which is a couple towns over. But you know, William Patterson University is there, which has a great music department.
Yeah.
That, like,
did you know Jimmy Leahy? His dad was Harry Leahy. He was
Harry Leahy. I was going to say, I knew an old timer jazz guitarist. Harry Leahy, I know. I know the son. I saw Harry Leahy play a bunch of times when I was in high school.
Yeah, he was like the big jazz teacher there at the time. But his son Jimmy's a monster guitarist also, and he went to Montclair State.
Yeah, it was a real amazing thing for me, because I started kind of taking a little bit of interest in jazz in high school, and then like there was this university right in my hometown where I could, like, I saw Wayne Shorter play. I saw George Coleman. I saw like all these amazing people just on these free concerts in my town.
Yeah. Very cool. You lost your accent. You don't really sound like a Jersey guy. Like I could tell you from your Northeast because you talk quick, but you don't sound like a Jersey dude anymore. Like some words, but not really.
Yeah. I think I kind of maybe always had a little bit of a neutral thing. Like, I go home, my siblings they have it hard.
you notice it, yeah. When you get it, yeah. I'm from the Bronx, man, and when I first moved to South Florida in '89, I think I intentionally ditched my accent because, like, I kept hearing in business, like, oh man, don't work with the New Yorkers, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to. I mean, if I'm going to have a challenge, make it because I'm an idiot or I screwed up. Don't it's kind of like racism, seriously, like, okay, I'm from New York, so I'm an asshole. Come on. So I ditched the accent on purpose. I remember that. Your mom's from the Bronx?
Yeah.
Do you happen to know where?
She grew up on Fordham Road.
Yeah, man. I grew up not far from there. I know exactly where it is. Yeah. That's so funny. What was your childhood like growing up in Wayne?
Well, I'm one of six kids.
Holy shit.
5 of us are adopted.
Wow.
So an interesting family.
Are you adopted or are you a biological? Yeah. Wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
God bless your parents.
Big time.
Seriously, man. That is like, wow, that is a serious commitment.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry I keep saying wow, but I'm like, holy shit, that is major. Like, they must be saints.
Yeah. So I grew up in a full house, a lot going on all the time. And my older brother was a drummer. That was a big part of me getting into music. And he had like garage bands in the basement, and so like it was kind of when that was going on is when I started, like, they would go out into the woods behind our house to go smoke a joint or whatever, and I would pick up the guitarist's guitar and start kind of noodling around on it. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Very cool. That's awesome, man. What a story. That's amazing. I'm just like, I want to give your parents a hug. They just forgot, like, being saints. I mean, holy crap. That's a major commitment, man. As you know, you're a parent, Wow.
Yeah, they always wanted to have a big family. They had 3 children and 2 brothers died very young. And it was a genetic thing that's called Tay-Sachs syndrome.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so like now they screen for it, it's part of a test they do whenever anybody's pregnant, pretty much. But in those days, they didn't really know what to do.
Yeah,
and so that's when they started adopting kids, and they filled up a house of us.
Wow, that's amazing. Are they all still in Jersey area, or did they even move out?
We got the oldest and the youngest are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And then the 2 middle, my sister and brother, live back in North Jersey, right near where we grew up. And then I got another brother who's in South Jersey.
Wow.
Near Philly.
Your folks still around?
Yeah.
That's great, man. Wow. Very good. Congratulations, man. That's really nice. That's a very good story. I appreciate that, man. What kind of work did your folks do?
My dad's a pediatrician, and my mother's a school teacher.
Man, that is such a tough job, being a pediatrician.
My dad, at 83 years old, still has a small practice.
I mean,
he's not retired. He's 83.
That's amazing. Well, I bet you his patients don't want him to retire. I can tell you. You get a good guy like that, man.
Well, the problem is that, you got a limited shelf life of your clientele. Like, kids grow up and they move on.
Yeah.
It's hard to get new patients when you're a senior citizen.
Yeah.
That's why the practice keeps getting smaller. He's got some patients that, like, the parents were his patients.
He's probably have 3rd generation parents at this point in time, I bet.
I don't know that he has a third generation patient, but he definitely has a bunch of seconds.
Wow. I remember when my daughter, I think I was talking to the pediatrician, the way insurance is now, he had to see like 85 patients a week just to keep the doors open.
Yeah, my dad is like, he's not losing money on the deal, but he's not making money.
Yeah.
More that he does because he loves doing it.
Yeah. That's a tough business, man. Wow.
Yeah, between malpractice insurance and, like, the small staff that he needs to keep to run the office and the rent on the office and all that stuff. It's like, he's like, I break even, And
all that equipment is not cheap, you got to have all that stuff supported. Wow. What was some we all pay tuition in whatever we're doing. I was curious if you might be kind enough to share one or two mistakes you made, some tuition you paid, and, the lessons that you learned from those mistakes.
Well, I don't know if it was a mistake, but one thing I did that I got over it, but was when I was studying at Berkeley, I became super narrow in my focus, and like I wanted to be a jazz guitarist. That was my goal, and I became kind of the classic like snob,
jazz snob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether or not it cost me anything as far as my musical development, it did cost me some trouble in my personal friendships and stuff. Like I was, kind of a dick about music, and I don't look back on it fondly of like my proudest hour. Maybe it did help me like stay hyper focused on what I was trying to achieve, but like I wish I had been more open-minded about different kinds of music and stuff when I was in such a great environment for that.
Yeah. The good thing is probably you're the only one who remembers you being a dick. Like nobody, no, seriously, like probably nobody else. Because I know I had something like that similar in my head, and I went back. I was like really angry in high school, and I went back like, I don't know, about 3 years ago, Ann and I were in New York, and I went back to not a reunion, but just the kids were getting together, people that I went to school with getting together. And I said, babe, I got to go because I was such a dick in high school. I was just angry, and I went there and I realized, oh, I'm the only person that remembers that I was a dick. Like nobody's been losing sleep over, that Garber guy, he was really a dick in 1981 in high school, so just from my experience, you're the only one who remembers it. Just trust me on that. No one's thinking about that, but because I've been there, man.
And the other one's kind of a similar, like symptom is when Letters to Cleo was going, I was very like just all in on that one project. And like, I wish I had kept more. Obviously, when you're touring for those 3 years of nonstop, like that's really all you can be doing.
Sure.
But I wish when I had returned home, I had like other musical endeavors that I had to work on or think about. Like by the time like other opportunities came about again, I was like I felt maybe a little behind. I've been so focused on this one project, this one style of how I played, which was cool because I did develop what I think a style to some extent. But by the flip side of that, I remember like, again, not practicing, more busy like writing music for this one project. Whereas I wish I had been more trying to do different things when I got off the road. And,
That's one of those things that's impossible to know. Like I'm sure Robbie Krieger was only writing Doors music. In his case, it turned out okay. So it's like, seriously, it's like one of those things that's like, it's no way of knowing.
Right. It could have been the best thing for me at the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always like, that's one of those things I felt like when I did kind of like start becoming a more of a hired gun type guy, I felt like I was a little behind all the other guys who had been doing that for 10 years,
Yeah, I totally get that, man. So with all that being said, if you had to go back and give yourself a younger version of you advice, what would, whether it's career, personal, business, what advice would have helped you?
I would say like, don't be a dick. And, and be open-minded, be just respectful of people who are trying to do music, which I don't think I was disrespectful, but I certainly I thought like 90% of the music out there was crap, and it all has merit and people are working hard on it, whatever it is. Yeah. And it's all worthy of respect.
Good stuff, man. Let's talk about gear for a few minutes. Man, I'd imagine you got a great guitar collection.
I got a pretty good guitar collection. Not like a museum pieces, but I got a bunch of guitars.
What's your number one? Like, what are your top 3 guitars that you like to go to?
My number one is sitting right next to me.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Which is this pretty like...
Oh, that's just Telecaster. It's just
yeah, I got this thing in high school.
That's wild.
I got this guitar in 1985, so I've had it for 33 years.
That is amazing. It looks great, man.
Well, I mean, it's beat up. If you got in closely, you'd see there's like a lot. It's been dropped and knocked over.
Okay, yeah.
This is I think, American-made neck and Japanese-made body.
So it's what is that? Just a wood? What do I call that? It's not
ash.
TV yellow. It's okay. So it's
butterscotch is the finish.
Thank you.
And ash is the wood. It weighs. It's heavy, but it's got a great neck. And I just got this in high school and started like shortly. This guy Tom Doyle's kind of a luthier legend in North Jersey, who was like not only Les Paul's guitar tech but his rhythm guitarist.
Oh, cool.
And he made this pickup for me, which is like a really unique. It's a low impedance pickup. It's just so crystal clear and glassy that nothing else sounds like it. And it's a funny story that we're doing this because just like about a week or two ago, I found on eBay another one.
Oh my God. Oh, he's not around anymore.
Yeah. And usually these, very rarely they turn up. Often it's the whole set and it's like $500 or like $350 each. I got this for $125 on eBay.
Good man.
So I have another now.
So let me describe the guitar. So it's a butterscotch telly with a black pick guard, a maple neck, which looks like it's in really good condition. That neck. I mean, it looks a little played, but
I just restrung it and polished it up yesterday, so this is the best it's looked in years.
It looks great, dude. And he's got 3 pickups. So the bridge pickup was the the neck pickup was the one that you were just talking about, right?
Tom Doyle low impedance humbucker, which is like this just glassy, beautiful, crystal clear tone. The middle one is that I use probably twice a year. Is the Duncan Strat pickup, and then a Joe Barden like a Danny Gatton model in the bridge. It's he didn't call him the Gatton model when I got this. It was just called the Joe Barden Telly pickup. But because I've had this in there for like since I think about 1999 or so. But that's it. And just I've mainly used these two, and this is my guitar. I can take any gig. It sounds good.
Did that come with 3 pickups?
No, it came with 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It came with the regular Telly pickups.
Yeah.
I bought it at this place called We Buy Guitars.
We buy houses. That's their brother. Oh, it's on where?
48th Street in Manhattan.
Oh, that's gone.
Yeah, so it's all gone.
They're all gone.
There was probably at least 10 music stores on that block.
That was the spot. Yeah. Sam Ash was there. Manny's, everything was there.
Yep. And that's where I got this at the used guitar shop on there called We Buy Guitars.
That's great.
And
you have a 5-way switch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5-way switch, and then plus this other guy. Originally, I had it just the 3-way switch, and then an on-off for the middle. Which do you know who Pat Bergeson is? Yeah,
I had Pat on the show. Yeah, Pat was from. He was living in Brooklyn for a long time.
Yeah, so Pat turned me on to the middle pickup thing when he was in college. He was at William Patterson.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't remember that. Okay.
I was a student and then a teacher at the National Guitar Workshop.
Sure. Oh man, I've interviewed tons of Jason Laughlin and Jeff McErlane, all those guys.
I know Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff was there when I was there.
Yeah.
And Pat was teaching there, and he had a Les Paul special at the time with a middle Strat pickup in the middle, and he had a little on-off switch for it to get that out-of-phase tone.
Yeah.
And it sounded so good, and I looked up to him so much, and he was like, "Yeah, you got to get a middle pickup with an on-off switch." So I just went and did it right away.
I interviewed him. His story is really good. He was basically desperate, living in Brooklyn, playing weddings and bar mitzvahs, and I don't know, his house, it was in a really bad neighborhood or something like that. And he gets a phone call one day, and it's Pat, Chet Atkins. He's like, what? This is wrong. This is it's a good story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
RL, he had played a demo by another guy who was at the Guitar Workshop.
Correct. That's right. He had a demo.
Songwriter. And like, yeah.
And Chet heard it. That's right. Crazy. Isn't it such a small world, guitar?
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting you to say Pat's name.
So I got a middle pickup. The reason this middle pickup is on here, and he probably doesn't even remember. I don't think but he was like, "Oh yeah, get a middle pickup." I was like, "Okay, I'll do that."
That's so funny.
Right away, I went and got that middle pickup put in there. And like I said, now I use it like twice a year.
It's the Pat Bergeson.
And every once in a while, it's a thing that like comes in handy.
It's the Pat Bergeson pickup.
Yeah.
That's what you got to call that, man. So what would be number 2 and number 3? Good story, by the way.
Then I got so that one's been with me forever through everything. And like, again, any gig, I can always take that to and it'll sound good. Then I have a 59 Les Paul Jr.
Wow. Is that handy?
It's not handy. It's over at the studio.
I love those. Those are beautiful, man. Yeah,
it's a red one. It's got a chunk of wood out of like the bottom cutaway right there. There's just like a chunk missing out of the back, and you can see the mahogany grain showing through there.
That's cool.
But I got that thing in the mid '90s, and it is just the most rock and roll machine. You just plug it into anything, and it sounds amazing.
Original pickup.
Yeah, original P90 Screamer. Wow. It's like the one with the one P90, and that guitar, like particularly on that third Letters to Cleo record, like that's the whole sound of the record, pretty much. Like
that's awesome.
That and my ex-wife's Les Paul Deluxe, which she's been kind enough to not ask for back yet, even though it's her guitar.
Sure.
Like those, and that's like a early 70s with the mini humbuckers.
Yep.
Like those two just are a rock and roll.
Oh, isn't that what Leslie West played, the Les Paul Jr.?
Yes, exactly.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
and mine looks exactly like his. It's the same finish and everything.
That's very. What was it? It wasn't TV Yellow. It was Sunburst.
The mahogany red double cutaway.
Yeah,
is like the one that I have.
That's awesome, man. Beautiful guitar. I love the sound of those, man. Just incredible.
In any amp, incredible. Like just it instantly sounds awesome.
You mentioned amps a couple times. What are you usually playing through?
I got a Princeton Reverb that sits here in my living room that I take on like local gigs. I got a Marshall JMP and that's from the 70s that I had modded by a guy named Mark Cameron out here in LA. And he does kind of like he makes it a 2-channel thing where one channel is kind of like a high gain, almost like Van Halen-y kind of distortion. And the other channel is kind of a AC/DC kind of like low gain. But like that thing just also like that just sounds good always. It's a little bit needed service right now, but I still use it all the time.
That's really cool, man. Well, those are both great amps.
I got a 63 Brown Bassman.
Wow.
With a presence knob. That's probably my favorite amp that I own.
Is that the combo?
No, it's a head.
Just a head.
Yeah, and I got that in Texas in the mid '90s on the road. I had been. Have you ever heard of a band called Dylan Fence?
No.
They were a band from Raleigh area, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we had toured with them a little bit back in the mid '90s. And their singer and guitarist Greg Humphreys, he used a Bassman and an old SG, and he had just such a great tone. I was like, wow, I want to get a Bassman too. And like one turned up that was actually like a older one, just at this shop on the road for like $300.
Holy
I
crap!
grabbed it. It's been my main amp like kind of since then.
You know what I've learned? I don't know if you've had this experience from talking to so many people and getting turned on to so much new music. I learned that New York radio is like very almost discriminatory. Like there's so many great bands like Dylan Fence, for example, and all these bands, particularly in the South, never played.
Yeah.
Just was not played on like PLJ or NEW or, whatever the stations were back then.
Yeah. And I think because the market is so big, they play to the numbers and they play to like like classic rock was always on the radio, or top 40.
Yeah.
Or like urban.
Yeah.
Or Spanish.
Yeah. Totally.
There wasn't like a real cutting edge radio scene. Some of the college stations,
WFUV was great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever checked that out.
There was a station in New Jersey I used to like. I don't know if I can remember the call letters, but like, and they had great Sunday night programming where they played new music and, damn, what was it called? I don't remember, but there was a New Jersey station that I used to like listen to music. I always had a crazy early bedtime, but I was a night owl.
Yeah.
I like listened to music in the dark in my room for hours.
Oh, I did the same thing. It was the best. Did you ever listen to Fingers Metal Shop on Sunday nights on, I don't know if you can get that, Babylon, Long Island, WBAB?
No, I never even got that station.
Yeah, it was really cool. They used to play stuff like, from that, like Zebra and, all those kinds of bands. And it was really funny. I interviewed Randy Jackson from Zebra. It was really weird. Was
he a singer, guitarist?
Yeah. Yeah.
Double neck.
Yep. Yeah, that was him. But it was really weird interviewing him because I was like, I listened to your first album like, 100 times, man. And it's just too weird that I'm interviewing because like I was at such a young age in my life, and they had a great story, but it was really funny just interviewing him. I don't like get started.
They from Long Island?
They are originally from New Orleans.
Oh.
And they moved up to Long Island which I thought took a lot of balls. They moved up there because there was just no scene for that music in New Orleans. And I'm saying New Orleans like a New Yorker. So I apologize to all you people from Louisiana that are like listening to me butcher the name of your most popular city. But they moved up there, and their story is the likelihood of them getting anywhere was almost zero. You see the Twisted Sister movie, theirs was very similar.
Didn't Zebra get discovered by Kiss or something?
No, what happened was they were so strong locally that when they finally put out a record, they sold 75,000 copies of the record in 1 week, all to people on Long Island. and so it was just like,
that was the way you did it back then.
Yeah.
Like you got noticed because you were selling tickets or indie records. Like, I mean, that's how Cleo happened.
Same thing. Yeah. So we
made a record in Boston at like a local studio that we self-financed, and like our shows were getting pretty packed. We're playing, headlining local venues, and then like one of the rock radio stations added one of our songs. And then we started playing even bigger venues locally, but we had no anything. And then, people from the industry eventually say like, wait, this band's selling out clubs and selling they sold 5,000 copies of their indie record. Whatever, maybe we should
on Saturday night. Yeah. Right. No, that's exactly what happened to them. It was, but the funny story about him was they had the record company, the head of Atlantic, is listening to it, and their one song, "Who's Behind the Door," it has acoustic and it's slow, but then it starts rocking. And he's listening to it in the beginning on a cassette in his limo, and he goes, "This sucks. It's taking too long." And he takes it out and he throws the cassette on the floor and he turns the radio on. At the exact time he turns the radio on, it's that same song at the rocking part, and he goes, "What? Fuck! This is great. Who's this?" And it was the same song. I mean, how bizarre. You hear that. It's like.
You ever watch that Beavis and Butthead where they're watching Led Zeppelin Over the Hills and Far Away? No. And it's like the acoustic part, and like Beavis is like, "This sucks." He's like, "No, dude, it's going to get cool soon."
It was like, I hear these stories and I'm like, man, there's got to be, I'm not like a religious person, but there's some otherworldly shit going on when you're in the right place at the right time. That's kind of like shepherding you through that process, man. It's just too crazy otherwise.
Well, some people don't get those breaks.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Some talented people, it just kind of never seems to happen for because of timing or whatever. And you're just like, man, and you just got to be thankful for whatever breaks you get.
Yes. Yes. 100%. But I think also I think the more stuff you do, the more likely to get those breaks.
True.
You can't give up, man. You got to just keep going because you don't know, I'd like to sound cliche, but the Harlan Sanders, Colonel Kentucky Fried Chicken, he was like 80 or way up in late 60s or something when he finally got his recipe turned on. And I just, you got to keep going, man.
Well, I mean, it's fun tying a few things together in like those chance meetings, like drummer Blair Cinta, who like I have that instrumental band with, and doing a gig with him next week, and he got me in the Melissa Etheridge thing. The whole way I know him is I needed to record some drums for the freaking Care Bears, and someone gave me his number. Like, he's got a studio in his house. He'll do it. And we did all these Care Bears songs together.
Wow.
For like a couple of years. And that's how our musical relationship started.
And now you're in the Reigning Monarchs together, and he got you, like you said, to Melissa. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that I just like, you can't
like
have
the
this
Care Bears. Picture a Care Bear when I say this.
Yeah. Yeah.
These songs about caring and sharing. And there's probably 20 of them.
Wow. Man, do you remember the first CD you bought, or record in your case?
Yeah. Elvis Presley live via satellite, Aloha from Hawaii.
I remember that record, Elvis Live. That's so funny.
That one, I can never remember which one was first. That one and Chuck Berry's Flashback were my first two records. The Elvis one was a cassette, and the Chuck Berry one was a vinyl double album.
Was there a lot of music in your house with all those kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, my older sisters were both big music fans, and my older brother was, I said he was a drummer, and he was like, he had a great record collection.
Yeah, that's cool. Desert Island Discs, Michael. Top 3. Any order, just for today, knowing it'll change tomorrow.
The Beatles Rubber Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I was jamming with some guys yesterday, and we worked up this like version of The Word, but like in the style of Kenny Burrell.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's fresh on my mind. Always Bill Evans Trio at Sunday at the Village Vanguard.
A lot of people like that record.
Waltz for Debbie, that whole like concert. And then let's say Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life.
Another very popular one. Real popular, that one.
Yeah.
Great record.
That's one. The copy that I have was actually like my older sister's copy. I don't know that she knows that I have it, but
you're like pinching all this music off all these women out there. You got your ex's Les Paul, your sister's record. There you go. The dirt's going to come out in the wash when this hits the internet, dude. Most important.
She went to college and left her record collection in her closet. She got what she deserved.
So you got like eminent domain over it. Is that what they call it, or something like that? Most important things you've learned about yourself throughout your career experience and life in general.
I've learned that on the positive side, I've learned that I'm very adaptable. Like, I'm easygoing and can just kind of like fit into a situation pretty well. Like, I don't struggle with new things or new people or.
That's great.
On the flip side, I'm not a good self-motivator. That's one thing that I struggle with, is getting down to business.
Starting something or finishing it?
Starting. I've got to set deadlines for myself to finish it, and I've got to like force myself to go get to work. Like I could very easily like make another pot of coffee, read the newspaper, and like I can procrastinate as good as anybody. So that's one thing I've learned about myself. So now I've learned systems to force myself to get down to business and get things done.
Man, are you okay sharing some of those? Because I guarantee you someone's listening to say, yeah, me too. What have you done that's worked?
Well, the one thing I did that worked was have kids.
Yeah. Because
you learn time management skills like you never knew you had when there are other people dependent on you and they're on a schedule. And, you know, like if you got 3 hours to work on something or 1 hour, you know, you do it.
Yeah.
And that was so like they gave me, that's one of the many gifts I got from my kids, though, was like learning how to manage my time because other people were depending on me and they had a schedule that was important, you know?
Anything else less committal? Any other any other strategies? More tangible.
Yeah. Well, one thing that worked for me was having a workspace outside of the house. You got to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's
really easy in your house to just kind of like be distracted by your stuff and the comfort of however you set up your world there. Like, and for some people, it's the opposite. They can work at their home, and that's the best place for them to work because they're.
That's me. 20 years plus I've been doing this in my house.
For me, I have somewhere to go. Even when at my old house, I had a studio, like a converted garage guest house kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Even just leaving the house and going in out there.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Enough, you know, like.
That's a very good one.
But like having a place to go where there's really not much else to do.
A workspace, as you said.
Yeah. That's one that's been a big one for me. And when I haven't had that, I've fallen back into old habits of, you know. So I've always tried now to have a studio, a rehearsal room, or something. You know.
That's a good one. Are you a rule breaker or a rule follower?
I'm a rule follower. Just as a general idea. I mean, I tend to think of just as my artistic, you know, side. Like, I think of myself more as like a carpenter than a painter. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not trying to. I don't have this deep, like, internal struggle that I'm trying to share with you through my music, or this perspective on my experiences that I'm trying to share with you through music. Like, I enjoy music. I like taking it apart and making it. Hmm. It doesn't matter if it's like, you know, producing a song for an artist that they wrote, or playing someone else's guitar parts off of a record live at a venue for a singer-songwriter. Like, I just enjoy making music. Like, I have fun playing the guitar. It's very gratifying for me. Yeah. and I just want to do it well. I don't have any innovative ideas on the guitar, I don't think, but I have a little bit of a style that's formed from my influences and my perspective. But, you know, I can make a nice desk.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Hey man, by the way, I love that throw pillow there. Who is that? Is that like a specific person? It's this.
You know what's funny?
Huh?
It's Kate Moss.
That's funny.
And my girlfriend was like, "Make sure you make the room look nice." And I was like, "Okay."
That pillow looks
but she said to me, "This is Kate Moss, by the way, in case he asks you."
Yeah. So I didn't know. It doesn't look like Kate. Well, I guess it does now that I know it, but it's a black and white. It's like a sepia. They call it, no, not sepia. It's black and white. It's a throw pillow, maybe 14 by 14 or something like that. And it's a woman with her eyes closed, and she looks sexy as fuck with smoking a cigarette, which I don't find sexy actually, but just the whole vibe of it. It's like, you know, very cool.
My son Henry got that as a gift from my girlfriend for Christmas, either last year or the year before.
Great.
She's in fashion. So.
Yeah, it's really cool. I dig that, man. It's very cool. It's good for like a musician to have. So tell your girlfriend she'll give you good advice. Man, what do you like? No, let's go back. Best childhood memory.
I have a great memory of my very first major league game, Mets Padres at Shea Stadium. I was little, but I just can remember like coming out and seeing that big field. Like our whole family pretty much are big baseball fans, and it was like a good bonding experience. The whole family going out to a game, and like that first one, I could still picture it.
That's very cool. That's really Shea Stadium was cool.
We were a Met family.
We were a Met fan. Yeah, I'm from the Bronx, so I was kind of young. Yeah. But I used to go to Shea Stadium and see Mets all the time. There was cheaper tickets. So, happiest moment or time in your life?
Except for a few like down periods that I've had in my life, I'm a pretty upbeat kind of guy. Like I'm pretty happy, especially if I'm playing. I made a record that you mentioned in the intro with Nina Gordon and with Bob Rock, and we made it out in Hawaii.
Wow. And
it was like I was out there for like 4 months.
Really?
I took up surfing. I would go be in the water every day at like 7:30 in the morning, 8 a.m., surf for 2-3 hours, go to the studio, record all day, be tired at the end of the day after all that, get a good night's sleep, go do it again. I did that every day for 4 months, and it was like I remember that as like a really special time.
That is really cool, man. Yeah. That is really cool. I actually got married there.
Oh, nice. In Maui?
In Maui, yeah. It was kind of silly. My wife and I get married and we go to this place. She's got like, I'm wearing a suit and she's wearing a nice wedding dress. And we're like, why didn't we wear shorts and like a Hawaiian shirt or something? We're like, fuck, how the hell, why did we do this? But
for the pictures.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's what we got.
Dressed up for the photos.
Yeah, we got loads of them, but it's just funny. That's really cool, man. Great. It sounds like a great, fun run there, man.
It was a great experience, and it was like it coincided. It was a major period of change for me too. Like, my ex-wife was like newly pregnant at the time. She was back east. She came out and visited for a little while, but like I was, kind of mentally getting ready to become a father. I like from all that surfing, I physically transformed me. I got into the best shape of my life. I was like ripped and tan and like.
That's cool.
And I was working on a high profile project with a legendary producer. I learned so much about getting guitar sounds specifically, but too, I also had to put the record together when we first started. Like he was kind of hard on me, like it's getting me to play well. Like I was, just not up to the level of what he was looking for as far as time and feel and stuff like that. And that first week was a little rough, but once we got into the swing of it, like it was a real exciting time musically, and just like one of those like fork in the road kind of times in your life when you say like it was my first project outside of the band, really like of any notoriety, and it was just a really cool time that I always look back on. It's like what an amazing moment that was.
That's really cool. So you had personal growth, confidence, new projects. That's good. And pre-dad thing, getting ready for that. That's good. Yeah. Man. Really cool. You had the telly? Is that what you played with on that gig?
Well, I mean, I played mostly his guitar collection.
Right. In his studio. Yeah.
Yeah. I brought my Junior, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought my Junior and maybe even the Deluxe. Cause I used those extensively on the demos. We had made demos back in Boston. And, so I think I maybe brought those two, but he one point, like we were like maybe like a month in or 2 months in, he's like, okay, you can play the Burst.
The 59?
59 Les Paul Sunburst. And like, I am not lying. It is by far the best guitar I ever played. Like the hype is real. That like nothing is even close. Like every note was like, holy shit. It just, the way the notes came out of the guitar was just unlike anything I've ever played before or since.
With the original PAFs in there and everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was nuts. But he had a crazy collection. So it was like, he would send his engineer or one of his assistants over, like, go out to the storage space and get this, this, and this, and that's what we would use that day,
Yeah, especially when this and this is a 59 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal. Man, what's the most important thing your dad taught you?
Oh boy, that's a good one. The most important thing he taught me probably was to like tackle jobs around the house that you can do, but not the ones that are too hard. But like he was like a decent handyman,
mm-hmm.
and like I would help him do little projects around the house, whether it was like install a new light switch or replace the screws on a hinge on a door that's loose, like little things like that. Like,
sure.
And now I like really like look forward to kind of doing stuff like that. And like, the disposal's broken, I'm gonna install a new one.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Now with YouTube too, you can really kind of learn how to do stuff like that. It's like,
absolutely, yeah.
And I enjoy doing little projects around the house, but I also know when it's like that's out of my league.
Yeah, right. I get you. That's really cool. You're God. Your dad's sounds like a cool guy. Six kids just to manage that. I mean, that's just so admirable, man. And how about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Well, I wouldn't say what she necessarily taught me, but like, and this, I guess this was a lesson for being a parent. She was the one who really went to bat for me when I wanted to go to music school, and my dad was very against it. And she kind of like thought it was important to let me pursue what I wanted to do, even if it was a challenging career to attack. Like, that I deserve their support and taking that risk.
That's really cool.
So that taught me as a parent. It got me on my career path, but it also taught me as a parent, like, you can advise them, but you do have to support their decisions in the end.
Yeah. That's great. Any non-musical superpowers that you have?
Well, my nickname on the tour in the Letters to Cleo tour world was Memorex.
Why? Because they remember everything?
Yeah, I remember everything, and also specifically like places we've been. I can remember if I've been somewhere, I know how to get there again. I have like a very good internal GPS.
Okay.
So like whenever we would get to like a city, and this is back, way before iPhones, and
sure.
You had a Rand McNally road atlas that could get you to Kansas City.
Absolutely.
But then you had to figure out how to get to the club, Max's, or whatever, like on your own. They would have a little inset that have major streets on it. But like our tour manager would always call me up and be like, "Hey, how do we get to the club again from here?" And I'm like, "I think you go up there and then there's like a Sears, and then you take a left, and you're gonna enter. There's an alley, and then we enter, and then this, I can always remember how we had to get places. So Memorex was always I was always relied upon.
That's a great.
Where the club was and how to get there.
That's a great skill, man. Any hobbies outside of music, Michael?
Cooking is probably my main one, and I find it a similar process. In
what way?
Well, it's a short-term thing that is consumed by someone pretty shortly thereafter. Like, you play, it's a pretty immediate response. You get and maybe the process was it's similar gratification, I would say.
Yeah, no, but short-term. It's right. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm into the prepping. I like coming back to recipes I've made before and, improving them, or just having them memorized, just being like, okay, I'm going to make this thing and I know every step, and I'm going to start by prepping this, get it all organized, and, and deliver the goods and have everybody be happy.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Everyone loves my roast chicken. That's like a pretty go-to hit, high in the rotation. The thing I made last night was one of my sort of originals, which was a bow tie pasta with Italian sausage, white beans, and spinach.
Dude, that's sounds delicious.
that like the kids have been begging me for a while. And my daughter just came home from college for her winter break, so I was like, I'll make one of the hits. Yeah.
Very cool, man. And congratulations that your daughter's in college. That's awesome. Very cool. I'm sensing a whole Letters to Cleo themed cookbook here, man.
It could happen. I used to have a joke of when, like, at a time when I was like, this is probably close to 20 years ago, at a time when, like, the band was kind of broken up, didn't really know where things were going. Like someone was like, "Hey, why don't you get into like working in a restaurant? Why don't you get into cooking?" I'm like, oh, I already ruined music by making that my job.
Yeah, now you're gonna have to. I hear. No, but I can just see the video. Many of our fans want to know, what do we eat when we're on the road?
Well, our bass player, from the heyday, he doesn't do any of the reunion stuff because he has a restaurant and a food truck now. He's like the pizza king of Boston.
Wow, nice.
He was always into making pizza back then, like at home, and then he got really into it and started he at one point modded his oven so that you could be in self-clean mode and open the door.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
And like he would go to like pizza places he loved and like go there after hours and dig through their trash and find out what kind of flour they were using and stuff like that.
Oh, espionage, corporate espionage.
But now he's like a very successful restaurant guy in Boston. He's got a place, stoked wood-fired pizza. He's got a truck and a brick-and-mortar restaurant now.
Dude, that's all. I could see your roast chicken place, man. LA needs another roast chicken place. Man, 3 more questions, and I really appreciate this interview and you. Talk about a specific experience that changed your life or changed the way you think about things, besides your kids.
Oh boy. Well, I would definitely say that the whole breakup of my marriage. That was my ex. Was and I'm not telling anything that hasn't been told. Was struggling with addiction at the time, and it was just a depressing time. I had to step up and be a father for my kids, but if I didn't, I would have probably really gone to a dark place. But what I learned was that you can, like, no matter how bad things are at the time, like, if you kind of can put one foot in front of the other and just keep going through life, like, things get better. Like, it's not that the worst thing that ever happened to you has already happened to you.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to keep plowing forward and move ahead, and like life will get good again.
Man, thanks for sharing that. It's funny that you mentioned that. I had a client many years ago when I was a financial planner, and he was, a guy who had gotten sober, and he told me this thing, and it's been so helpful. He said, there's this dirty little word, 4-letter word out there that makes everything better. Time.
Yeah.
And the only thing is, it definitely has helped me because I know that everything's temporary. But, sometimes when you're deep in it, it's like, fuck, man, I just love to turn the clock forward 6 months to a year and whatever 2 years, whatever, how long the doldrums that, the pit that you're in that given moment takes. But that's very true, man. Yeah. The worst of it is over. Now it's up to you to,
no matter how bad it is, like, you're still moving forward and you're getting more distance between the whatever happened and getting to be better again.
Yeah, man.
You just got to keep plugging away.
Again, thanks for sharing. That's really cool. The next question might be the answer to what we just toughest decision you ever had to make or hardest difficult thing you had to do. I'm assuming that was this thing that you just talked about.
Yeah. That was just. But I mean, now everything's great. Like, I'm in a new relationship that's amazing, and my relationship with my ex is solid. That we can work together and co-parent as needed.
Yeah.
Together, and like it's like life's better than ever now. So it's
very cool. I'm happy, man. Deserve it. Okay. Last question. Biggest change in your personality, Michael, over the last 10 years, and how much of this change has been deliberate and intentional, and how much has just been a normal part of aging?
Well, I say the biggest part is I am a better listener now. I'm better in relationships, kind of having a major one fall apart and starting a new one. I've had to look at like what I've done wrong in the past and what I can improve on. And like, that's what the biggest thing. I'm trying to be a more active participant in my relationships and not just let them happen, but actually work on them.
Yeah, man. And that's tough. It's not easy.
Yeah. And I think that is a mixture of, getting older and learning from past mistakes and trying to just be a better person.
Dude, that's like totally cool. And I really respect what you said. And I hope your relationship continues to flourish, man.
Thanks.
Listen, thank you very much for everything. I want to tell people where to. Also, I want to talk about some stuff you got going on. We talked about the letters to Cleo stuff you're working on. Talk about the Reigning Monarchs album that's you're working on. It's going to drop pretty soon or early this year, and that is the project with Blair Cinta, the drummer that you mentioned several times, and comedian Greg Barron. Talk about that.
Okay, so that's a band that started in I think 2008 or so. At the time, I was giving Greg guitar lessons. His wife bought him like a couple months of guitar lessons with me for like a birthday gift. He had always wanted to take guitar lessons and had been in bands and been kind of like but he had been doing comedy. And at the time, he had just written a book that was massive called He's Just Not That Into You. And he was getting ready to do this big comedy tour, and he wanted this like walk-on music. And he had an idea, and he said it very specifically what the idea was. It was like, I want the guitars to be like Dick Dale and like a lot of brass, like Quadrophenia, and then but also kind of like the Clash, like rhythm section. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And basically, and he had a little riff, like a little 2-chord kind of riff. And we just made a song, and then he used that for it was like a 1-minute song. He used it for his intro to his comedy act. And then when he got off that tour, he was like, I got a couple other songs that I want to do like that. And we did a couple other songs. And he had a comedy show in town. He was like, let's have the band be that had music in it. And he kind of started using that show as a format for this band that we created around it. And then it just kind of became a real band, slowly but surely.
That's awesome, man. And anything in particular that you want to tell people about the upcoming album? I know it's very guitar oriented.
Yeah. So if you listen, Black Sweater Massacre, I think is like the recent LP, which was now I think 4 years ago. But that really kind of encapsulated that first phase of the band, like what we were trying to do with the surf music meets kind of 60s movie score stuff. But orchestrated with a lot of horns and stuff. And we did this one song on there called, it was a cover, the only cover we've ever done, I think. And it was called Frankenstein Ska. It was an old Jamaican song from the 60s. And it's one chord. It's just one riff, basically.
Was that written by Neil Young?
It's written by Byron Lee was the guy's name. And whenever we would play it live, it's just that the groove was so good, and it was just that the bass player would play 1-2 notes the whole song, and we played for 7 minutes. Oh, wow. And the audience would just be so into it and groove. We're like, oh, let's make a record like that. We kind of reinvented ourselves on this new album, and it's less composed, more jammy. When we did the horn arrangements, we kind of gave it some structure, but it was kind of just jamming on a groove for longer stretches of time. And so this new album that's actually been done for over a year, we just haven't had our schedules line up to where we could book shows and promote it. So we've been waiting to put it out. It's more in that ilk.
Awesome. Well, dude, when you put it out, you want to come back on the show, we'll do a special on it. We can promote it.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Just hit me up. And also Michael is available for lessons. He's been teaching a long time, Berkeley grad. This is what you should do if you're interested in hooking up with him at lessons. First of all, on his Instagram, as I mentioned earlier, he's got 100 clips, video hashtag standard of the day, which is 1-minute guitar solo arrangements from, I'm assuming, jazz standard songbook.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I actually wouldn't mind just talking about real briefly.
Yeah, please.
It was this is about 2 years ago, I guess. Just one day, I just was practicing, and I was I kind of got into working on my reading again a few years back, because I hadn't done much of that. So I would just like grab a fake book and put it out and just like read through a song. I kind of got into doing that, and then I was like, well, this song's kind of nice. Maybe I'll try and kind of learn it a little bit. And I did a little like 8-bar arrangement of Easy Living, and like just filmed it on my phone and posted it to Instagram, and like people liked it.
Yeah.
So then like a week later, I did another one, and then people commented like, you should keep doing these. So I, once I got to like maybe like 10 of them, people were like, how many are you going to do? And I just said 100. Just to pick something that was like a challenge, like, a big enough. I mean, there's so many standard tunes.
Oh God.
Like, so there's no shortage of material, but it would be like, I knew it would be like,
yeah, that's a challenge.
Long haul,
Absolutely.
And it was kind of like how I structured this 8 a.m. interview with you. It's like, it was my sort of thing I would do in the morning after the kids went to school. I would like finish my coffee and then pull out a fake book, pick a song, read it down, kind of work up a 30 seconds to a minute version of it, film a few takes till I got one that was decent, and then post it. And it became kind of like a ritual.
Yeah.
Kind of thing that I kind of got into, and a good, like, just kind of creative kickoff to the day, do something musical. And then when I got to 100, like 6 months later or so, I was like, well, what do I do now? And I tried this Bach cello suite, and it was fun to learn, but it was way too challenging to kind of do them on a even close to daily basis.
Right. Yeah, that's very difficult stuff.
So I kind of like, one day I did this, I posted this one of a Beatles song that I had kind of done a solo arrangement of at a Monarchs gig once, that Happiness is a Warm the Gun.
Great song.
And like, yeah, it was cool. So the next couple days later, I did like, let me try She's Leaving Home or whatever. And then I got a few of those, like, okay, I'll make this the new thing.
Okay.
And I think it's up to 65 Beatles songs. Of just
That's
kind of
great.
working out like little arrangements. You're getting like the chords and maybe some of the bass line and the melody all kind of happening in some version, And then since then, I've just been fishing around. I don't have a new theme yet, but I still kind of try to keep them coming.
Dude, do your ska surf whole thing. That's really cool, man. You ever heard of a guy named Diego Garcia?
No.
Look him up. El Twangero, he goes by. He does Latin, exactly the same thing. Latin. It's not ska, but it does Latin and surf music together. Brilliant shit out of Spain. So let me tell people where to find that. So check out Michael's Instagram. It's the Eisenstein. And again, that's the THE. This is his Instagram handle, @handle. I sound like a freaking Breaker19. This is handle.
If you search my name, I think that turns up too.
Yeah, just look up Michael Eisenstein. It's EISENSTEIN or the Eisenstein, and check him out there. And if you want to contact him about lessons, message him through the Instagram account, and he'll get back to you. And don't be a dick. Just be respectful of his time, and let him know what you're looking to accomplish, and maybe what your background is as far as musical or what you've done lesson wise, so he can get a good handle on if he can help you or not. And man, that's it. I really appreciate everything, man. I'm glad we got to connect, and thanks for sharing all your cool stories.
Thanks for having me. I've listened to a bunch of the podcasts. I enjoy it, so it's cool to be a part of it too.
Cool. Thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to Michael Eisenstein for spending time with us. Check him out on the road with Letters to Cleo and the Reigning Monarchs, and check out the new discs that both of them are going to be dropping in 2019, and go out and support his music. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.